Welcome to Draft Utopia in collaboration with Sportshead Radio. I'm Chris Ransom and my co-host Emmanuel Watson. We are going to fill out Emmanuel's bracket. You saw my bracket on Sunday for the bracketology, and just we'll be filling out some of the games for your bracket. What region you want to start with? Do you want to start with the Auburn region? That's where the number one overall one seed's at.
We just start there. Yeah, we can start there.
Yeah.
All right, in that region, obviously I have Auburn went to the second round. But you did this. What was it? Alcorn State? They won. Was it Alabama? Excuse me, Alabama State.
Yeah, I'm actually going to fill in the first four. This will not count in any way, but I am filling it in. Alabama State Hornets won and North Carolina won. I do not know who won the American St. Mary's game. That was tonight. Mount St. Mary's, not St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's American. That was tonight, and I believe the Texas Xavier game is on right now on TNT.
Yeah, that's currently going on.
True TV. So Mount St. Mary's won. The Mount.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, Mount St. Mary's won 83-72.
Yeah, and then right now Texas is up by 8 points against Xavier.
Yeah.
They're both 11 seeds in that. That's for the Midwest region.
Yeah.
Midwest region. And the winner will play Illinois in that one. Let's start. I have Auburn. To be honest, obviously, I think a lot of people will pick one seed in the first round. Give me Auburn. Louisville and Creighton. I'll take Louisville. Michigan and UC San Diego. My first upset. Give me UC San Diego over Michigan. It's my upset. And I have another one for you. Give me Yale to upset Texas A&M. And Ole Miss versus North Carolina. North Carolina won yesterday. I like North Carolina to beat Ole Miss.
So Auburn, Louisville,
UC San Diego, and Yale.
Yeah.
Because
I got Yale and Michigan, but my friend Jason's got UC San Diego and Texas A&M. That's the only other bracket I've filled out so far. But I'm just he's got UC San Diego going very far. Jason Bannell does. I'm just getting the actual because it's hard to remember the Tritons. Excuse me, it's hard to remember the Tritons as their nickname from the top of my head. I apologize for that. I know I should give them a little bit more respect, but it's just hard to remember the UC San Diego Tritons. So you got North Carolina beating Ole Miss. I'm all caught up.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Iowa State over Lipscomb. I'm gonna take Iowa State. I have another upset. New Mexico over Marquette. Was it Rick Pitino Jr., the coach at New Mexico?
He's the coach at St. John's.
Yeah, but his son is the coach at New Mexico. Yeah, I like New Mexico over Marquette as an upset, and I got Michigan State beating Bryant.
Let's see. Yep. So all the games. Wait, that can not. Ooh, I know what I did. I accidentally put I see what I did wrong. I put all your winners for the first bracket in the Sweet 16. This does not look good. This looks like something straight out of. This is what a dry cornbread bracket would look like. I cannot disrespect Emmanuel's bracket like this. We are not having that this evening, folks.
I have Michigan State. So basically the first round winners for the South region. Michigan State, New Mexico, Iowa State, North Carolina, Yale, UC San Diego, and Auburn.
Yeah, I should have this fixed in a few minutes. Tar Heels. Let's see. Iowa State Cyclones. And then we got New Mexico Lobos. So there are a few changes to Emmanuel's bracket versus mine. I took Creighton over Louisville. I took Michigan over UC San Diego. We both have Yale winning. I think if North Carolina, I've got Marquette in the Elite Eight, and Emmanuel's going with New Mexico in the upset. So, but I do feel like it's wide open. Auburn's probably going to be the first team in the Elite Eight, and then, but what I'd like to do with my brackets is I go by round of 30. I go to the round of 32 first, then I go Sweet 16, then I go Elite Eight. I'm guessing we're going to go with that format. Question is, do you want to go with the Florida region next, or do you want to go with the Houston or Duke region now that we've taken care of the round of 32 for the Auburn region?
Let's go down west. Let's go west. Let's do one side and then we'll do the other side.
All right. So that's the Florida. I'm guessing that's the Florida region, correct? On the bottom? All right. In Florida, I'm already typing Florida in. I don't think anybody's picking Norfolk State. No offense.
I got Florida obviously winning. I have UConn beating Oklahoma in that game. Memphis. I can see Colorado State winning this. I believe Colorado State's a favorite in this game.
They are the favorite as a 12 seed. Bannell's got them in the Sweet 16. I've got them in the Final Four. This is the first time I picked a 12 seed to go to the Final Four. I did it, though. Jason's got UC San Diego going to the Final Four as a 12 seed. So this is just bold. We're either going to look like geniuses or idiots when this is all.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I have Memphis in a close game.
All right, Memphis.
But honestly, this is probably one of my least confident games to pick. I'm going to be honest. I have Memphis winning close.
All right.
Maryland over Grand Canyon. And here comes the upset. Drake over Missouri.
I also have Drake in the round of 32.
Yeah. Give me Drake. I like Texas Tech over UC Wilmington. I'm going with the dog on this one. Calipari, Arkansas.
I also have Calipari winning over Kansas.
Over Kansas. Kansas is struggling a little bit. And obviously I have St. John's over Omaha. So I got Florida, UConn, Memphis, Maryland, Drake, Texas Tech, Arkansas, and St. John's as my winners for the first round of the West region.
Yep. And St. John's Red Storm. Sometimes I type in flashing red or big flash. It's Red Storm. I'm just making sure. Okay, so we got all the logos up for the round of 32. Are we gonna go with the Kelvin Sampson bracket or the Duke bracket or the Puke bracket, as you like to call it?
Let's go to the East region where the Dukes are in.
Duke Blue Devils.
Okay. Obviously, I have Duke winning that game.
Yep.
I got Mississippi State winning the close one against Baylor. I got Oregon beating Liberty. Arizona over Akron.
I took Liberty in the upset, but that's a tough one to pick. My strategy is usually to pick the team with the most NBA prospects, but I usually do not pick the round of 68 winners. I always pick against them, even when it backfires. I think North Carolina is a very strong round of 68 team. I think they're the best round of 68 team since UCLA back in 2021 when they made the Final Four and lost to Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. I do have, like I said, Arizona. Yeah, Arizona over Akron. Give me BYU over VCU.
I also the BYU Cougars, Igor Demin. I think, well, Wisconsin, this was tough. I do think Igor Demon's going to lead BYU to a win over Wisconsin in the round of 32, but I couldn't pick. I don't think Wisconsin's going to choke 2 games in a row after choking to Michigan in the second half, the Big Ten championship. I got them beating Montana, but Montana is good enough to upset them, but I'm just not bold enough to pick Montana to beat them.
Nah, I got Wisconsin over Montana.
I do too.
I like St. Mary's over Vanderbilt.
St. Mary's and then Alabama over Robert Morris.
Yeah, I know. Yes, obviously.
I might upset some people. I am within driving distance of Moon Township, where Pat McAfee grew up, where Robert Morris is actually located. So, never been to the campus. I've been to Pitt. I've been to Duquesne. I'm in the Pittsburgh region, but I've never been to Robert Morris. I mean, if they had a tournament game at the Robert Morris campus, but it was 2 weeks ago, probably should have jumped on that when I had the chance. But all right, now we go to the Houston bracket.
Yes, I have Houston, obviously. I have Houston. I have Gonzaga over Georgia.
Interesting. I took Georgia, and I have them in the Elite Eight.
I got Clemson.
I do think Houston's the most prone to being knocked out, but we'll save that conversation for the round of 32. Let's just get through the Clemson. Yep, they beat Duke.
I got Clemson over McNeese. Upset here. High Point.
I also have High Point winning. The High Point Panthers. I know.
High Point over Purdue.
I know Florian, my friend in France, talks nonstop about the High Point soccer program. I think they're going to beat Purdue. Purdue does not have anybody in the top 60 of the NBA mock drafts currently, and High Point, sneaky good team. I think they're going to pull the upset as the 13th seed.
Yeah, I agree. And they're 7.5 point dogs. I actually took them on the spread. I have a guy in Vegas who put money on it for me.
Yeah.
So I took a plus 7.5. I really like that line. Illinois versus either Texas or Xavier. I like Illinois regardless, either or.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and I have Kentucky over Troy.
I've also got Kentucky. UCLA plays Utah State. 7-10 matchup. I took Utah State, I think.
I agree with you. This is one of my upsets. I like Utah State, and they're 5.5 point dogs, if I'm not mistaken. I think Utah State pulls the upset, and that's in my parlay too. Give me Utah State over UCLA.
And Tennessee over Wofford, I'm guessing.
Yes.
All right, that should clear things up for the round of really the Utah State. Okay, I put 2 S's in Utah State. That's why the logo didn't show up. All right, that should. Now the logo showed up. So we got this bracket, Manuel's bracket, down to 32 teams, and I am going to set up the Sweet 16 on the left side of the bracket first. But yeah,
going back to the Auburn region.
Auburn, Louisville. Louisville is a good opponent.
They are good.
I took Creighton, but I think regardless, whoever comes out at Louisville, Creighton's gonna have their hands full with Auburn in the round of 32.
And honestly, I have Auburn going to the Sweet 16.
As do I. Now this is where things get interesting because Banel's got UC San Diego in the Final Four. I think Yale would win this matchup, but I picked Yale. I picked Michigan to beat Yale to get to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. And you got UC San Diego playing Yale in a 12v13 matchup.
And I agree with you. I like Yale to beat UC San Diego and go to the Sweet 16 to match up against Auburn.
And that would be a rematch, I believe, of last year's round of 32 game where Yale was that a round of 64 game? Because I thought Yale knocked out Auburn last year.
Yeah, I think so. I like Yale to get the rematch. Give me Yale and Auburn in the Sweet 16.
All right, much higher stakes on the line compared to last year. All right. And we got North Carolina, Iowa State.
I'm torn on this one because Iowa State's not fully healthy, and I'm a UNC guy.
And
But
UNC's got multiple round one guys. Iowa State, I don't think they've got anybody in the top 60, but they've got great coaching. They're consistent, but their best player's not healthy. So I could see how it's kind of conflicting.
Yeah, this is conflicting, and I hate to do this, but I took Iowa State close win over UNC.
All right. And then New Mexico versus Michigan State.
Give me Michigan State to beat New Mexico.
All right, man, and that's mostly high seed, mostly top 3 seeds in Yale in that bracket, and then we got second bracket. We've got Florida and UConn.
Florida in order, two-time defending champs playing against arguably one of the best team. Well, I believe is the best team in college basketball. Give me Florida to beat UConn convincingly.
Yeah, I think Colorado State's probably the only team in this bracket that can knock out Florida. If they dodge Colorado State thanks to Memphis, I think we're probably going to see Florida in the Final Four. Because I think Florida and Colorado State are probably the 2 best teams in this bracket. I do think St. John's can make some noise, as can Arkansas, and then Texas Tech, depending on what happens. Those are, I think, the 5 in this bracket that can get out of this bracket unscathed and make the Final Four. But we'll see. As much as I like Connecticut, this Florida team's a buzzsaw for UConn this year. And UConn's had their moment. I mean, I don't think they're going to three-peat. They would have to get by Florida and go on a run.
Yeah, and not only that, UConn's defense is nowhere where it was last season.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest disappointment with UConn. Their offense is great this year, but in terms of defense, I think Florida is going to be able to, with their depth, is going to beat UConn.
I agree.
In regards to that. Now, we have Memphis and Maryland. I got Maryland advancing to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I almost picked Maryland over Colorado State. That was a tough game for me to pick. I did pick Colorado State, but Maryland's got a center that might go in the lottery range of the NBA draft this year.
Yeah, agreed. I like Maryland over Memphis. Now, next one we have Drake and Texas Tech. Texas Tech, to me, is one of those sneaky teams in the tournament, and they're good enough to get to the Sweet 16. So I think Texas Tech's going to beat Drake.
I've got them in the Elite 8, but we'll save that conversation for the next round. And then Arkansas, St. John's. I initially had St. John's winning this game, but then I flipped to Arkansas.
St. John's is number 2 in the country in defensive efficiency. I like St. John's to win this game.
Yeah, this was a very tough game for me to pick. And I initially had St. John's in my Final Four when I first did this bracket, but very tough bracket. All the top 4 seeds make the Sweet 16 in the West region. Now we'll go to the East region, and I do think someone in this bracket, I think if somebody were to pull an upset, it's going to be on the right side of the bracket, and it's either going to be Duke or Houston losing in the round of 32, because if one of those 2 loses, then that sports books can ruin their perfect bracket, still show bias towards the blue bloods, and still still keep their profits, because that's really what all these bracket challenges are about. Ruining the perfect brackets so that the companies who make the brackets can keep their profits. That's really that's the first part of the angle. And the second angle is what blue bloods are left after there's no perfect brackets. But yeah, I do think Duke, I'm guessing Duke's going to win, but I think this game and the Alabama game, if they get by Mississippi State, those are going to be their 2 toughest opponents. I did take Baylor. That's probably why I have Duke beating Baylor, but I do think Mississippi State's a tough matchup for Duke, but I think Duke's going to win.
Yeah, I think Duke's going to win convincingly in the second half. I have Duke beating Mississippi State, go to Sweet 16. Oregon and Arizona, interesting matchup. Former Pac-12, conference foes. With this matchup, I love Caleb Love. I know he's in Arizona, but Dana Altman, the way I feel like his style of coaching and with this team really benefits in the tournament. I like Oregon to upset Arizona.
Interesting.
Oregon goes to the Sweet 16.
Oregon goes to Sweet 16. I like that. I took BYU to upset Wisconsin. This game could go either way, but I feel like Demon's going to go off, and that's why I've got BYU in the Sweet 16. But
yeah, I could see that, but for some, I think Wisconsin's going to learn from their mistakes. I got Wisconsin in the Sweet 16.
All right, and then St. Mary's in Alabama.
I think this is going to be a close game. I think St. Mary's is going to give Alabama a little bit of run for their money, my opinion. But I got Bama. I think Bama's going to close it out at the end.
All right. So 12 of the 16 teams have been decided. Houston, I feel like they're prone to an upset in the round of 32, regardless of who they draw. Because Gonzaga is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. They were underseeded. They should have been seeded higher. And Georgia has a top 10 prospect in Asa Newell, whereas Houston doesn't have anybody in the top 60 this year. They do have a great defense, and they have Kelvin Sampson, who's one of the top 5 coaches in college basketball this year. But I think they are prone to an upset. If somebody does lose early, I think it's going to be Houston, probably in the round of 32. But if they get by Gonzaga or Georgia, they should go on a run, at least get to the Elite Eight at the bare minimum.
In my opinion, I think Houston got a tough bid in this region. I'm going to tell you why. Gonzaga's efficiency has gone up, right? Within the top 40 in both categories.
Yep.
Clemson is a very sneaky team as well that hardly nobody is talking about.
They beat Duke earlier in the season, and they are a very low-key, under-the-radar team. That's why I have them in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Clemson is Gonzaga, they're underseeded. I agree with you. Clemson, you can make another argument they're underseeded. And I can see both of those teams beating Houston down the line. And but with that said, I have Houston beating Gonzaga close. And the reason why I've been skating by Houston is because they're number 6 in the country in effective possession ratio. I know in years past it's been due to down the stretch, execution, free throw shooting, and not being able to take care of possessions. Right? That's been kind of like Houston's Achilles heel. But they're right behind Florida in effective possession ratio. So I have to give credit where credit is due with Houston. But that being said, I'm going to take Houston in a close one against Gonzaga. And I got Clemson over High Point.
I've also got Clemson over High Point. This one was tough for me, the Kentucky-Illinois game. I took Illinois because I think they've got multiple prospects, whereas Kentucky just feels like they're weaker compared to previous years, but I don't think they're going to lose in the round of 64 like the previous Kentucky teams under Calipari. They've just got to get over that hump eventually.
Honestly, I know Kentucky, I know Lamont Butler is going to be healthy by the start of the tournament, but I think Kentucky's good enough to get to the Sweet 16. Give me Kentucky to beat Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois does have the talent to beat Kentucky. They've got 2 prospects in the top 60. Kentucky doesn't have any this year, which is surprising after Calipari left. But here's the thing. Illinois is very streaky. Some nights they're on and other nights they're off. They're a very streaky team. And by picking Illinois to go to the Final Four, I am playing with fire. Emmanuel's too smart. Emmanuel's smart. He's not playing with fire. On the other hand, I am playing with fire. I realize I'm playing with fire, but just throwing that out there.
Oh, man. Okay. Utah State, Tennessee. Obviously, I have Tennessee.
Yep.
Now, on that one. So now we're going through our Sweet 16 matchups, right?
Yeah.
So to the South region, I got Auburn. But I think Yale's going to put up a fight. But Auburn, in the Elite Eight. Iowa State and Michigan State, excuse me. I got Michigan State. Izzo, one of the best defensive backcourts in the country. I think Michigan State's going to the Elite Eight. Now let's go to the West region. I got Florida over Maryland. I think Florida wins convincingly. Texas Tech and St. John's. This is going to be an interesting game. But I have St. John's winning the close one. Give me St. John's to the Elite Eight. Duke and Oregon. I think Oregon's going to challenge Duke in this game. But I think Cooper Flag is going to keep his guys involved in the game. I think Duke's going to win and pull it out at the end. Got Duke in the Elite Eight.
I've got Duke, Alabama in the Elite Eight. Is that the route you're going as well? Just feels like that's the route. I feel like that's the route every bracket is going in with Duke, Alabama.
I got Duke, Alabama in the Elite Eight facing off against each other. Yes, I agree with that. Let's go to the Midwest region. We got Houston and Clemson.
I thought I typed Tennessee Volunteers. This says Tennessee Wildcats. I don't know what the heck's going on there, why I typed that, but I'm going to fix that, and then we'll update you guys. There we go. I didn't even realize I had screwed that up, but yeah, now it's fixed. Houston and Clemson. Yeah.
I got Houston in a close one again. They skate by. It wouldn't shock me if Clemson upsets them. It wouldn't shock me. Kentucky versus Tennessee. I'm going Tennessee because they're a better defensive team. And that's Kentucky's biggest Achilles heel. They can't play defense like Tennessee in the Elite Eight. Now we're back to the South region for the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Auburn and Michigan State.
Yep.
Give me Michigan State style of play and Coach Izzo upsets Auburn in the Elite Eight. Give me Michigan State in the Final Four.
And are they going to get a rematch? So Florida going to get a rematch with Michigan State, the team that beat them to win the 2000 national title 25 years later.
Yes, Florida beat St. John's. They'll pull away in the second half. Florida.
I think that was Izzo's first championship too. I might be wrong on that, Emmanuel, but I think 2000 when Michigan State won it, that was Izzo's first championship. I could be wrong on that though.
Yeah. I got Florida.
Yep.
Playing Michigan State in the Final Four.
Yep.
I got Florida. But in the West region, I have Michigan State winning the South region. Now back to the East region. We have Duke and Alabama. Close game. Duke's defense and the perimeter defense is going to cause problems for Sears and company. Give me Duke in the Final Four.
Duke. And who will they play? Will they play Tennessee or Houston?
This one's tough because I've been 50-50 between these two, right? But something tells me Houston's going to skate by again. Houston in a close win. I got Houston beating Tennessee by a point or two. I think both of these teams play excellent defenses. Both of them are similar. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the style of play, right? But the reason why I'm taking Houston because Houston's effective possession ratio is the closest thing that matches their offensive efficiency.
Yep.
Give me Houston in a close win.
Yep.
So my Final Four: Michigan State,
Florida, Duke, Houston.
And Houston. So it's 3-1 season and 2. Now.
And when people sing one of these things is not like the other, they're referring to your team, Tom Izzo. Use that as take that personally and tell your guys to take that personally if you get this far.
Let's start with this matchup: Michigan State and Florida. Michigan State has the best defensive backcourt in the country. Meanwhile, you have Florida, who is number 5 in effective possession ratio. I believe they're top 2, or they're probably number 1 in offensive efficiency. They're 10th in defensive efficiency. Florida's offense is going to overwhelm Michigan State down the line. Florida advances to the national championship.
I figured you were going to pick Florida. I just decided to do, the Florida Gator chop for comic relief on the live stream while you were breaking that game down. Because I had a feeling you were going to pick Florida to win that game, and my intuition was correct. I just wanted to let you break the game down first.
Then we have Duke and Houston. I believe it's a rematch of the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. No,
Sweet 16, because Duke lost to, I think it was NC State in the Elite 8 last year.
That's right. Yeah, Duke beat Houston in the Sweet 16 last year in Dallas. This is a rematch of the Sweet 16 matchup from last year. I was torn on this one, but Houston's offensive efficiency sometimes doesn't match their effective possession ratio, but at the same time, let me pull this up. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up. I've been back and forth with this. I might have to make a change.
No worries.
I might have to. Let me see if I can. Okay, let me refresh this. Come on now. But I've been back and forth with this one. This is a tough one for me. Okay, this is not refreshing. Okay. So Houston's ranked 6th in effective possession ratio, but Duke. See if I can pull it up. Duke is ranked number 1 in offensive efficiency. I think Houston's ranked 24th in offensive efficiency, but they're 6th in effective possession ratio. But Duke is 19th in effective possession ratio and number 1 in offensive efficiency. With that being said, I'm not making no change. Give me Duke over Houston. So Duke advances to the title game against Florida. I know.
This is the exact match. I've got Duke over Auburn. Jason Bannell's got Duke over Florida in his bracket. I feel like you might go Florida over Duke, but it's very close between because I think Auburn, Duke, and Florida are considered the 3 most bet on teams. Houston might be 3rd in terms of betting action with Florida at 4, but I have not seen a bracket. I think one of the YouTubers did pick Houston to win it all over Auburn or Florida, but yeah, I think all the 1 seeds this year are going to be tough outs.
Yeah, agreed. And with that being said, I've said this team was going to win the national championship since December. I've kept it, and folks, for over the past couple years, I have picked UConn to win a national title 2 years in a row. I've picked UConn as a 4 seed when Hurley won his first title. I picked them to win. People thought it was crazy. Everybody was going with Bama and all these other schools who were 1 seeds. Meanwhile, I was one of the few that took UConn. I put a futures bet on it, and I won money. And the people that I know, they know it's the truth. Last year, I picked UConn again. People didn't believe me. And Chris, you know, because we did the live stream last year on the Selection Sunday when I had time. I said I like UConn to win the whole thing. They did. This year, I am taking the Florida Gators to win the whole thing and win the game by 3 points. I don't know what that means there. Wrong button. But give me Florida to win it all, folks. my prediction, and I'm keeping it. And the funny thing is, Chris, I said even before the brackets came out about a month ago, I had Florida and Duke in the national title game.
And that's what you got here.
Before the brackets came out.
Yeah. That's right.
If people follow my Instagram page, I said Florida versus Duke title game. Now, I'm sticking to it, Chris. Taking Florida to win it all.
I like that. But
so I did the opposite of you said somebody who had Duke.
Jason Bannell had Duke over Florida for his championship game.
Yeah, I got Florida. I just think they're just too efficient. Florida has the highest out of any other seed in this tournament. They have the highest effective possession ratio out of any team in the tournament right now. Believe it or not, because we don't know. Well, I take that back. St. Mary's. They're only behind St. Mary's. St. Mary's is number 2 in the effective possession ratio. St. Mary's and Florida are the top 2 teams in effective possession ratio in this tournament, folks. And Houston's right behind them. And the reason why I continue to pick Houston because they're more effective on their possessions than Tennessee is. I believe Tennessee is ranked. Tennessee's ranked 42nd. But yeah, they're ranked 42nd. So that's the reason why I took Houston to beat Tennessee in that Elite 8 matchup to win the region. But yeah, I got Florida and Duke. Duke is very balanced too. They're top 5 in offensive defensive efficiency categories. They're top 20 in effective possession ratio. Our Duke's numbers is really title worthy contention. Don't get me wrong, but Florida, they're just too deep. They're just too deep. I like Florida's efficiency. And I like their guards. I like their front court. I like Florida. Win it all. That's all I can say, Chris.
Yep, Florida. They've got a really good team this year. Them, Duke, Auburn, all the 1 seeds look really good this year. And Alabama and Tennessee are probably the 2 best 2 seeds. But yeah, this bracket does have all 1 seeds and all 2 seeds in the Elite 8. So
right. It's unfortunate because I really like St. John's, but the problem is they're in the same region as Florida.
Yeah.
You know, and I like St. John's to go to the Final Four, but it's just they ended up in a bad, in the region where Florida's in there, which I like higher.
Yeah.
It's just St. John's. They don't have the problem. But St. John's for me is they're elite defensively, but I just don't think they have enough firepower to match Florida on offense.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest concern with St. John's. They're a very good elite defensive team, and their defense can take them to the Final Four. But Florida this is another juggernaut because now you're dealing with those guards. And one thing, with the depth that they have, it's gonna be difficult for a team to beat Florida. But Maryland has a shot, obviously. I think that in that region, UConn has a little bit of shot, but they don't play no defense. Maryland has a slight shot. Texas Tech has more of a realistic shot than what people think. I think St. John's does have a shot too, but it's just the problem with that region is there's not enough teams in that region that can match Florida's firepower.
Yeah.
And you can make an argument for Colorado State too, but it's just Florida is just so efficient, man. And I've been really impressed with this team since the start of the season, and I'm just like, I think I'm watching a title team in front of my eyes when I was watching this team and everything. So yeah, I'm sticking to it, and I've been fairly objective as a North Carolina fan on Duke this year.
Yeah. Because they have a really stacked roster. Okay, yeah. Duke this year. It's not just Cooper Flagg, but the guys Con Newpel. They've got Malak at center. They've got a junior point guard. They've just got a very complete team this year.
Yeah. So yes, I did kind of go chalk some people, and the funny thing is, and now the Vegas odds have Florida favored a little bit over Duke to win the title, so I think that's kind of interesting. In regards to that,
on Sunday, Auburn and Duke were the favorites to win the title.
Yeah, it's just the problem with Auburn is they lost 3 out of the last 4 games. And
okay, so according to USA Today, Duke and Florida are both tied for number 1 at plus 350, and Auburn's 425. But Auburn did enter. I think Duke and Auburn were both co-favorites Sunday. And then Duke jumped Auburn on Monday.
yeah,
Now Auburn's 3rd, Houston is 4th, Alabama is 5th, Tennessee is 6th, and Michigan State plus 2,500 is 7th.
yeah. That's my bracket.
And St. John's is 8th, so yeah.
That's my bracket, folks. Well, am I the only person who picked Florida?
To win out of the 3 of us, yes, because Jason had Duke over Florida, I had Duke over Auburn. But your track record with the brackets does speak for itself. Picked UConn twice, had NC in 22. Your track record with these brackets does speak for itself, Emmanuel. So I would put a little bit of stock into that. Not a lot, but a little bit. I mean,
I understand. But
and
I
if
I try to be fairly objective with Duke.
Yeah.
Try to.
Yes. And for everyone saying, "Oh, there's not enough upsets in Emmanuel's bracket." Emmanuel's bracket cannot be any worse than I don't know, just the showmanship the Kelowna Rockets are showing in the WHL game tonight. Something about it just irritates me. Not the players, coaches. It's just mascots throwing beach balls into the stand, and their radio station's called the Lizard. It's hard for me to take a radio station seriously if you call it the Lizard. That's like the corniest thing you could call your radio station. It would be like I'm not sure what's a good analogy here. I don't know. But it's just a very corny name for a radio station, the Lizard. 104.7 the Lizard.
But Steve, if you look at the South region, I took 3 upsets.
He did. He took Yale, he took UC San Diego, and he took New Mexico.
I took New Mexico. I took 3 upsets in that whole region.
Yep.
So I felt like I took good enough risk based on the first round.
And Memphis and Drake are both Memphis, even though they're higher seeded, they're underdogs. So that's technically an upset.
Right. I took Memphis. I took a gamble on Memphis.
Drake.
And I did say I wasn't totally confident with that. And that's probably my least confident pick out of all the games on this bracket.
High Point in Utah State. So he does have 5 upsets.
I had some upsets. I took Drake over Missouri on the West region. I took Drake. I took Memphis as a dog. So I took Arkansas over Kansas. And Arkansas was a 5.5-point dog. So
Yeah.
I took maybe 2 upsets and 1 underdog. And then I took I kind of went chalk on the East region. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went chalk a little bit on the East region. But on the Midwest, I did take Utah State. I took Utah State and High Point as my upsets on the Midwest region. But I did go chalk from the Sweet 16 on down. Outside of Michigan State.
Yep.
Outside of the Michigan State pick over Auburn in the Elite 8. Because I just like Izzo's coaching style in a tournament just benefits more. I think, but it's just they're going to run to Florida. It's going to be difficult for them to beat them. But just to say they're going to be a good out for Auburn.
Yep.
Yep, man, that's my bracket, man. What you guys thoughts? Let me know. Yeah, if
there's any comments in the chat room on the bracket, I will pull those up.
Okay.
No
But-
comments on the bracket, but yeah, 15 viewers. Thank you guys for tuning into and looking at the brackets and Sports Head. You can check out Sports Head Radio. Maybe you'll pull up the women's bracket quickly here. I'm not going to fill it out right now, but I'll go through some of the games. But yeah, one region, the UCLA region, that is going to be. I'm not sure who's going to come out of that region, but I would say I think LSU might be a challenger to UCLA. It just depends. UCLA, though, they are the one seed in the Spokane region. The Birmingham region, I'm expecting South Carolina to dominate the Birmingham region in the women's bracket. Spokane region is going to be tough because I think whoever comes out of that USC Connecticut Elite Eight game, assuming that happens, that's probably going to be who ends up in the. That's probably going to be the team that ends up in the women's fight in the championship game because I think those are the two best teams. I think either USC or Connecticut would beat UCLA or LSU in the Final Four. So I think whoever comes out of that USC Connecticut game, that's probably who you're looking at. Texas is the one seed in the Birmingham region, but I think this is going to sound bold, but I think Haley Van Lith and TCU are a dark horse to make the Final Four. They get creamed by South Carolina, but I think Haley Van Lith and TCU end up in the Final Four this year. Horned Frogs, but they get creamed by South Carolina. It's like a 20-30 point win for the Gamecocks.
Hey, I'm gonna say this bold prediction. I don't think UCLA is gonna make it to the Final Four.
It might be Kim Mulkey and LSU that makes it. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be UC. I know more the LSU forward's injured. One of the LSU forwards is really good is injured. But if it's not UCLA, I think it's going to be 3-seed LSU and Kim Mulkey. They get back.
Yeah.
But they lose to USC or Connecticut. And South Carolina would probably be my pick to win it over. I'm gonna take USC over USC, South Carolina over Southern California. But Juju Watkins positions herself as the favorite to win it all for USC next year.
Yeah, honestly, I probably have LSU coming out of that Spokane region.
Yeah.
I really like LSU. SC and UConn, oh, that's a tough one. You have Oklahoma is pretty solid. Yeah, I have SC and UConn meeting in the Elite Eight on that one. It's a toss-up for me.
It is, because I think whoever comes out of that game probably beats LSU in the Final Four and then loses to South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. TCU and Texas, you know what, bro? I actually agree with you. I like TCU to the Final Four. Just looking at the okay. I have my Final Four. TCU, South Carolina, TCU, South Carolina, LSU. Oh.
LSU and USC. I think we have the same Final Four.
I don't know, but something tells me to pick UConn because I think their depth is a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, I love Juju.
And didn't UConn beat USC in last year's tournament?
Yeah, I believe it was a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 match.
It was Sweet 16 because Iowa beat UConn in the Elite 8, I believe, or was that the Final Four?
It was one or the other, but
I know it was one or the other.
Yeah, I can't. I know it was at least. I know it was at least a 16 matchup last year, but
I'll pull it up right now. I'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I'm torn with this one.
Yeah, it was Elite 8. It was Elite 8 because UConn played Iowa in the Final Four last year, and Iowa only won by 2.
Yeah, that's true. Ooh.
Only difference is USC and Connecticut were in the bottom right bracket last year. This year they're in the bottom left bracket. That's really the only difference. But it's still a significant difference.
Honestly, I'm leaning towards UConn.
Yeah, all right.
It's tough because I love SC, but it's tough. But I just think the depth at UConn is a little bit better.
That's fair. But that's very tough.
But I want SC to win. Oh, this sucks. Yeah, I got UConn, LSU, South Carolina, and TCU. I have South Carolina playing in the title game against UConn.
Yeah, because I think it could be UConn as well. It just depends who comes out of that region.
Yeah, and honestly, I have UConn winning it all.
I could see it. Paige Buchers wins a title.
Yeah, I think Paige goes out on top, becomes the top pick in the draft, wins the title, to sell off her, for a college career.
Yeah.
I have UConn winning the whole thing. I think South Carolina has taken a little bit of a step back. This year because of the talent that they lost.
Yeah.
Right, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it's still good. They're still a good enough team to make the Final Four.
Yep.
That's still an accomplishment. Don't get me wrong. It's just they're not the dominant teams in the past, and that's unfortunate because Don Staley has set a high standard for that program.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like Nick Saban did at Alabama. She set a high standard there, but it's just the amount of players that they've lost over the past couple of seasons I think, is starting to show. I'm going UConn to win the whole thing. But I do believe Juju's going to be on a mission next season, especially with Jazz Davidson or something like that, one of the top guards in next year's class, going to SC. Oh, man, that's going to be deadly next season.
Yeah.
USC, I think heading into next season for women's basketball, they should be a top 2 ranking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the country.
I agree.
With that recruiting class. But I do believe will it shock me if SC wins the national title? No, it wouldn't. But it's just the way the bracket fell on them with UConn in it. It just sucks.
Yeah, I agree. Because if UConn wasn't in their bracket, I think they'd be in the Final Four. I would have much rather had seen UConn and UCLA's bracket, because then we would have had this matchup, UConn, USC in the Final Four. It would have been better for the league, better for ratings.
Yeah. I like UCLA. I like bets. The problem I have with UCLA is they have a tendency to struggle against physical teams at times.
Yep.
And I think LSU is going to bring that energy when they match up in the Elite Eight, in my opinion. So I think LSU is going to make it a dogfight, make it tougher for.
And UCLA knocked out LSU last year, so it's payback. I don't see Mulkey losing to the same UCLA team 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Payback.
Yeah, I think LSU is going to muddy the game out, in my opinion. And I have LSU winning that region. I think UCLA is a good team. That's just like a little bit too finesse.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's why. In my opinion, that's why you saw when they played against USC, when SC was playing physical, they kind of went a little bit of a scoring drought, and Betts wasn't being as assertive at times, and at times she was a little bit more passive, and she started overthinking like certain positions that she was out on the floor. So that's just my opinion of what I've observed of her, but. She's a great player, don't get me wrong. It's just she has a tendency to struggle with the physicality of the game. And I feel like we're going to start seeing that from LSU when they play head-to-head.
I agree.
I can just see that down the line. I feel like that's going to be more of an Achilles heel for UCLA. But if UCLA was in a region where the majority of their teams can outscore each other, I think UCLA will go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but the problem is there's a lot of contrasting styles in that region. Usually, when that happens, more than likely, upset's gonna happen because like look at the men's side, like with Yale, but a lot of those Ivy League school teams, like their style of play benefits the tournament because they've seen everything.
Yeah, if they were in the South Carolina bracket, I think UCLA would make the Final Four. But the UCLA bracket is tough. The Spokane bracket is tough. Even the Birmingham bracket's kind of tough because you have Tennessee as a 5 seed in the Texas bracket. You have Notre Dame as a 3 seed. Notre Dame is a team I was telling you about in women's basketball at the beginning of the year. If TCU doesn't knock out Texas, I think Notre Dame will, but I'm going to pick TCU. But I think it's going to be one of those two that ends up taking out Texas in the Elite Eight. Whichever team wins that game, I think beats Texas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I think South Carolina's bracket's probably the only bracket where UCLA could make the Final Four this year.
It's funny you said that because I really do believe either Notre Dame or TCU is going to come up that region.
Yeah.
I just love the backcourt for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's got excellent guards. That's why I say you can't sleep on them.
Yeah. No, I agree.
When I did my first WNBA mock draft, I had Notre Dame's point guard going number 2 behind Bucher, so you cannot sleep on Notre Dame's guard play. They have excellent guards.
Hey, who do you have mocks to the Sparks? Because they're the number 9 pick, right?
I have not updated my mocks since. I'm going to do that as soon as I finish setting up the G League pages. I'm going to do a WNBA mock. But I know they traded number 2 to Seattle. There was like a big 3-team trade a while ago. And I got to update that.
Yeah, they got Kelsey Plum in return with that. So they needed a guard, too. They were kind of logjam at the forward. You know, the forward position.
Yeah, you got Brake, you've got Plum, you've got Rakia. Yeah.
Yeah, Hamby.
You have,
they have some pretty good depth at the front line and in position. Ray Burrell seemed like she's trying to take the next step as well. As well. So Sparks has some pieces. It's just I just want them to tank for Juju. If they get Juju.
I think Juju's in the 2027 draft. The 2026 draft, they don't have that pick. They do have a 27 first. They don't have a 26 first. They traded that to the Sounders.
Right. I think that was strategically so they could try to get.
Yeah, Olivia Miles, that's the player I think I mocked too. But Sonia Citron's now number 3. Kiki Irafan's now at number 5. I had Irafan at number 5 at the beginning of the draft. Cheyenne Sellers, a player Joey told me about on the podcast, is now at number 6 in the mock drafts. The Sparks are projected to get Janiah Baker, UCLA, according to NBA Draft Room at 9. She's a forward. I wish the Sparks would get another guard to pair with Plum, but
they don't need a forward. We got too many forwards. We really don't need a
unless we're moving Brink to center, there's no point in drafting another forward.
There's no point. But we're pretty logjam at the forward position. Just get a guard. We need guards.
If you're gonna get another forward, move Brink to center. I don't think that if you're gonna keep Brink at power forward, I think taking a forward's a waste of a pick. Okay, this is interesting. Just Joss Scioli, shooting guard from Lyon, mocked the LA Sparks at 9, and she's from Lithuania, but she plays shooting guard in France. But yeah, Joss Site, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, but she's on the LC Asvel team that Tony Parker owns that team that in France. That's one of the teams he owns. But she's on that team.
I wouldn't mind that.
Tankathon mocked her to the Sparks at 9.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, that's a better pick than what I saw.
Yeah.
In the other mock.
I wouldn't mind that. To me, it's like, why not? If you're at a position at number 9, why not take a chance at a high upside guard who could
ZZ Fudd went to the Minnesota Lynx at 11. And the Aces forfeited their first-round pick for tampering. But, yeah, Azizi Fudd is also an option at 9. Tihana Papau, combo guard, South Carolina, mocked 13th to the Aces. JJ Quinterly's a player I mocked at 9 at the beginning of the year. 23.7 points a game at West Virginia. Aoka Lee's now projected at 24th. Haley Van Lith, 25th. So Van Lith is a second-round pick. She might be in play at 9. If TCU goes on a run in the women's tournament, she might be in play at 9. I don't think she'll go in the first round, but she can definitely improve her stock with a strong tournament run.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if the Sparks drafted her in the second round.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at that. Load up on guards, see what we could do from there, and then obviously.
I don't think the Sparks have a second round pick. No, they don't. The Sparks. Okay, because I checked. Sparks. Las Vegas Aces have a second round pick from the Sparks. So the Sparks have picks 9, 26, and 28. And those are both third round picks at 26 and 28. So they traded their second round pick away to the Aces in the 3-team trade. But they have 26 and 28. They could move both those picks to move into the second round.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So I think we're more likely to get a better player in round 2 versus round 3. I'm cool with moving 26 and 28 to get a better pick.
Yeah. Absolutely. And but that does it for.
That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for coming on, Emmanuel, and thanks for taking some time to fill out a bracket. And why don't you tell people where they can find your content for Sportshead Radio before we sign off?
Yes, you guys go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Sportshead Radio. Also on TikTok, Sportshead Radio. SoundCloud as well, Sportshead Radio. We're on Spotify. We're going to put a podcast on there as well. And I think I missed one more social media. TikTok, Instagram, SoundCloud, that's Sportshead Radio. You guys go and follow me. And also on X. There we go. X. That's Sportshead Radio. Thank you guys for following and keep up with the content.